But I started off as a service kid. I'm third generation of pilots. My grandfather, my father was in the Indian Air Force. So was my sister. The first woman helicopter pilot in the Indian Air Force. Big boots to follow through with. You know, but everybody sort of knows you or knows me as Miss Universe 2000. And I've heard it innumerable times. A beauty queen. Beauty pageants. What's that? That's so demeaning to women. I mean, seriously, they're going to put a crown on the most beautiful woman's head and yada, yada, all of that goes on. But I'll tell you this, that incredible opportunity gave me the chance, as you saw, to be a UN Goodwill Ambassador for 14 years of my life, to work on some incredible transformations that happened, that were brought about because of being in that role. I had the incredible privilege of being part of and advocating very strongly for the PCP-NDT Act, which is now enforced in India, which does not allow you to determine the fetus, the gender of the fetus, and therefore prevents female infanticide. So that was something that came out of being Miss Universe. I worked with the wonderful scientists at the Harvard AIDS Institute on addressing the AIDS issue in not just South Asia, but also Sub-Saharan Africa. We worked on some incredible programs on human trafficking, especially for women and girls coming out of the Nepal region and Northeast India. So these are some of the most incredible opportunities that you get from walking down a stage, being crowned with a crown and wearing a sash. Pretty soon after winning Miss Universe, when you come back to India, in the early 2000s, there are not really those many, professions that give you the same kind of exposure as you've had when you've been Miss Universe. Miss Universe at that time was owned by Donald Trump, so he definitely put you out there. So you had two choices. Either you went into politics or you joined the film industry. And I can promise you, neither then nor now was politics my cup of tea. And so, of course, I transitioned into a Bollywood actor. I think being a service kid, honestly, has helped me through those transitions in life. I mean, you moved every couple of years to new Air Force bases, you gave up friendships that you had made, you went into new schools, you adapted to new environments, new people. And I think that's what I did throughout my entire career. I think being a service kid gave me the opportunity not to label myself or to box myself into any one thing. I learned very quickly to transition, which I did through every, decade that came through in my life. So in my 30s, from an actor, I turned producer. In my 40s, I'm an entrepreneur. And I can promise you, I'm only just getting started. But the film industry, thank you. The film industry, as most South Asians know, at least the Bollywood film industry, is rather male-dominated. And it's a tough place to navigate, I can tell you that. In 2011, when I decided to turn producer, mainly because I felt that there were just roles that were so few and far between for women that were well written, that actually gave a woman something to do on screen, where you weren't just the male lead's wife or his girlfriend or his mother. There were just so few and far between that women were actually clawing each other out of their way to try and get and land those roles. And it just, it made me feel like it was time that women stepped up, started producing the kind of content that they wanted to see on screen. So I did a wonderful, lovely little film, I think was wonderful, called Chalo Dilli, which was my first film as a producer. And the experience was interesting. As Miss Universe, whenever I went to an event, people were very, very ready to see a beautiful woman walk through the door, but not necessarily an intelligent one. It was a bit taxing. You mean I just can't take a photograph with her? I need to make conversation with her as well? I just came here for a good time. I want a photo with Miss Universe, and then I want to go back and do whatever I was doing. It was the same thing when I turned producer. The same people that I had worked with the same corporate honchos that I had worked with as an actor were very willing to sit down and talk about creative aspects of a film with me. But they were constantly looking over to my shoulder to see if there was a man there that was then going to talk numbers. And it took a lot of convincing. It took a lot of sitting at that table, and it took a lot of research. It took a lot of groundwork to arm myself with the knowledge that I needed to in order to be a producer that came as one package, that I didn't have a man behind me who was going to say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. But there were very few female producers at that time, or very few actresses that were producing films. And today we have an incredible number of young women that have come after. And I think it's incredible to be able to have created that path, to have cleared it a little bit for them, to have created a seat at the table. It was tough, but I know that there were incredible women before me who did that for me. So it was a pleasure and an honor to be able to do that for women that came after. I honestly, believe I talked about women clawing each other out of their way. And I genuinely believe from what I've seen is that if you take women along with you, you end up creating more opportunity. So rather than fighting and pushing women aside, if you take women, it's not about just creating a path for them to come after. It's about taking them along with you. Because when you do that, women end up creating more opportunities for each other. And therefore, you don't need to have a cat fight. You don't need to push things aside. Okay, I know I'm on a clock, so I'm going to go to the next thing really quickly. I love the fact that Nikki, if I may call you that, spoke about her daughter and talked about how wonderful and how powerful you are, but also about the fact that it's okay to feel fear. The two roles in my life that I enjoy the most, one is, of course, my career. The other is being a mom. And I'm a mom to an incredible 11-year-old girl, 11 going on 25. But the one thing that I've found as women, and I think a lot of women in this room will resonate with this,